Hello, hello. Welcome to Courage Becomes Her, where we connect and share real life stories. I'll talk with women whom I love and am inspired by, women who are experiencing life just like you and me. I'm excited for us to gather together and cultivate confidence, courage, and joy in life and work.
There was all this output, and my family wasn't asking me to be the glue and the happy for them, but I was like inserting myself into that position. And that is really tiring, and you can't be that for other people. And on top of just trying to, keep things normal and keep things good, I was also trying to homeschool and make whatever home that we were in feel like a home when it was our empty house in Albuquerque, or it was the cabin by the lake that wasn't ours and was tiny, or it was this home that we're in now full of boxes. There was just so much that I was trying to do, and there wasn't any left over for me.
That was Ashley Ward. Ashley is mom to a newborn, a 6-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 13-year-old. She's been married for 14 years to one of my brothers. And I'll tell you what, I truly hit the jackpot when it comes to sister-in-laws. I have Ashley and one other who you'll meet in a future episode, as well as my sister. And between the three of them, they are truly my favorite people to spend time with and some of my absolute closest friends. In today's conversation with Ashley, you will hear just her incredible wisdom and insight, especially as she's recently been navigating a move to a new state, new community, saying goodbye to friends, and welcoming a newborn baby. And all while trying to also find inner peace for herself and manage the feelings of herself and her own family as they navigate all of these changes in life. So I'm super excited for you to listen in and enjoy this conversation with my sister-in-law, Ashley. Ashley, thank you so much for coming on and joining Courage Becomes Her.
You're welcome. I'm super excited to be here, and I'm so honored that you would ask me.
And thank you. I'm so honored that you would join me. So we're going to do something a little bit different today and test something out because of some listener feedback. So we want to talk about your get to know you, do some get to know you questions, some rapid fire questions in the beginning. So, and this will be super fun because I think some of these, like even as well as I know you, like I don't know that I know these. So maybe I was thinking about love language. So what's your love language?
My love language is quality time.
Okay.
For sure. Yeah, I just love to be around people. And I think too, attentiveness within that, because I can't just be sitting next to you like watching a movie or like on our phones. Like I want to be engaged or staring into each other's eyes or something of that nature.
Yeah. Okay. That makes so much sense. And that's going to definitely tie into our conversation here in a couple minutes as well. So I love that. And then Enneagram. So we've all done our Enneagrams together. And I think we finally settled on that you're a 2, did we decide, or a 9?
So we decided on a 9.
A 9. Okay. We went back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that I have a tendency toward the 2 as like a stay-at-home mom and like mother and homemaker. But my natural like Ashley version is for sure an Enneagram 9.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's super interesting. And then did we decide wing 1?
I don't think I've paid that much attention
to the wings. Okay.
So I can't say, yeah.
Okay. All right. Good. That's great. How about something that you've laughed about or has filled your cup in the last 24 hours?
Something that I have laughed about or filled my cup in the last 24 hours. I would have to say watching the baby laugh. So my little 2-month-old has just started getting control of his smile, because before it just kind of, he smiles and almost involuntarily, it seems like. But now he looks into your eyes and he's usually watching one of his siblings or me or his dad. And then he will do this like sweet little baby open mouth smile.
Oh.
And his laugh is just basically puffs of air leaving his mouth. But that's
That's
so
awesome.
cute. And so I for sure, yeah, it makes us laugh.
I love that. Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
And I can't wait to see that because he wasn't doing that yet when I last when I got to see him. So
Yeah.
super fun. Okay, current obsession in any genre.
Okay. My current obsession is that we just found an edible plant in our backyard.
Whoa.
Yeah, I'm so excited because it feels like it feels familiar and it feels like a home sort of
Mm.
thing for me to have places that we can go to pick random fruit that's just growing in nature. So in our yard, we were hanging out and we found these blueberries that the deer were eating. And then a neighbor was like, I think my husband eats these.
Huh.
And of course, I was like, I have to look into this. So we did our research and they're Texas persimmon. And we just have been foraging them like all day and night and eating from our
Wow.
backyard.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. And you can just eat them raw. Like you don't have to do anything with them.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. You just eat them
Okay.
raw. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, so
I
cool.
know. I
Oh,
love
that's
it.
great. Yeah,
Yeah.
you are always so good about that. And it's so educational to me to learn
Thanks.
from you guys about that. So I love it. So good. Okay, I know you guys have several like family shows that you watch, but
Mhm.
for you as Ashley, like what's been like your best or favorite show or movie over the last 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, this is a family show as well, so it's very convenient, but it's Mountain Men. I know that I've told you about it. I tell everybody
Yes.
about it, sometimes multiple times, but it's so good because these people are just living off of the land and doing what they love, and
Mm.
they're so hardcore. They're like hunting and really hard, cold conditions on mountains, or they're trapping or building things or whatever it is that they do. And it's so interesting to see. So
Yeah.
I love that.
That's so cool. Yeah, I've enjoyed watching a couple episodes with you guys with the family, and
Thanks.
it's definitely um so foreign to I
Yeah.
think what a normal American family living is like. So it is,
Yeah.
yeah, super interesting. So love that.
Yeah, it definitely also gave me a false sense of confidence in living in the wilderness. And so when we stayed at our sister's cabin, and it's not even the wilderness,
Uh-huh.
40 minutes
Yeah.
from town, I thought that I was going to do a better job, but I didn't. Sadly.
So you're definitely not going to be on an episode of Alone
No.
anytime soon or something like
No.
that.
No. Much to my
Totally.
dismay.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think isn't that funny? Like we definitely all like have this perception of like that we could last longer than what we really can.
Oh, yes. Oh, for sure. It's so easy to be judgy when you're on the couch in your warm house
Right.
and
Yes.
someone's, not bringing in the food that they need to. So,
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. Okay, music. So you guys are a pretty musical family, enjoy music. So what was your first concert?
all right, this is a fun one, and you can probably understand my answer, but I actually don't remember my first concert because I don't care for concerts
Yeah.
because there's too many people and too many flashing lights and it's so loud. And so I I've tried, it might be Tom Petty, but I don't actually know because once I figured out that I can say no and like not actually go to concerts with people, then I just stopped and I haven't missed them since. So
Yep.
it wasn't
Oh,
memorable.
that's funny. And here, that is exactly my same answer for sure. Like, I will only go if it's something that is like super iconic, right? Like
Yeah.
Garth Brooks, like you
Yeah.
have to go to that, or whatever. So,
Yeah.
totally agree. Good. I know you love to read like I do. So, what book has transformed your life?
Okay. It was a like young adult book, and this I read probably when I was in 6th grade. It's My Side of the Mountain. Have
Huh.
you ever heard of that book?
I don't think so.
Okay. So it's about this boy who runs away to the Catskills,
Huh.
builds a home in a tree, and then does lives off of the land. And clearly I'm like really interested in this right now. But he lives off of the land and like makes candles out of rendered deer fat and turtle shells and like makes deerskin clothes for himself and just lives out there. But it's such an adventurous book and he's so independent. And when I read it, I was probably at a really impressionable time in my life,
Mm.
but I just loved the idea of that, like, yeah, that independence that he had and that self sufficiency that
Yeah.
really intrigued me.
Huh.
So,
Wow.
and also as an adult, The Hiding Place, and it's in like, I've noticed that three
Yeah,
other of
two
your
others,
guests, two
Andrea
other.
and
Okay.
Stephanie. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Have all said that as well. And
Yep.
that's for sure, as an adult, has been my life changing
Yeah.
book. So,
Isn't that so interesting? It is. It's a
yes.
beautiful book. So, okay. So my
Yeah.
side of the mountain. So we'll
Mhm.
definitely, I'll have to look at that. Have the
I
kids read it?
recommend that every adult and kid reads it. It's just
Okay.
a really, it's well written and it's fun, and you could read it in a day,
Yeah.
hour.
Have you had the older kids read it?
All of my kids have read it multiple times
Okay.
and they all
Okay.
love it.
You talked about like there's a big component for you in like this living off the land, foraging, like just, being in nature. And we'll talk about just like all the transitions that you've been through as of late. But I know that that is a big piece for you of like anchoring yourself to nature. So just talk a little bit about like what that has been like in this season of transition.
It's been different than I thought it would be. When we decided to leave New Mexico, both my husband and I traveled back and forth to Texas a couple times.
Mm.
And when you're flying in on a plane, you just see all this greenery and all the hills and these wildflowers that are just growing on the side of the road. And, up till then, we have family who lives here. And so we've been seeing their pictures of these beautiful, like, creeks and outdoor areas and the lake that our sister lives at. And so I had this image in my mind of what being in Texas was going to be like, and I was very excited for that change because where we were in Albuquerque, it's gorgeous. We have the Rio Grande, but the water is brown, and we have the Bosque, which is basically just the area along the river that has lots of trees to walk through. But it's right in the middle of the city, and we have the mountains, but it's dry and there's no water. And so I was really excited to come to Texas, where it was going to be, in my mind, just lush and green in this land of milk and honey.
Mm.
And it definitely has been, but just the fact that it's so different hit me harder than I expected that it would.
Mm.
We got here when it was really hot and I was super pregnant. And so it was hard for me to spend time outside. And that made me really sad. Not sad enough to actually go outside in 100+ degree weather pregnant,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I definitely missed it. And then the bug situation in Texas is real.
It is a legit thing.
Like, they're so much bigger than anywhere else. Moving from California to New Mexico, I was like, the bugs got bigger. New Mexico to Texas, probably, anywhere to Texas, the bugs are going to increase in size exponentially. And so, again, going to the mountain man thing, like, I couldn't hang as well as I thought I could. So that made, it was another barrier to being outside. So it was a little, yeah, that made it rough. But I will say we moved into a house that has great air conditioning. And so I was able to start going outside when it was hot and then come inside to take breaks. That helped a ton. We are in a little bit more of a neighborhood area, so there is a little bit more of a barrier to bugs when we're inside our own home. And then just recently, the weather has cooled down a ton, and it has improved my mood so much that I can be outside most of the day if I want to be, because it is really beautiful here. We have huge oaks and we have shrubs and cactus growing all over. And our neighborhood, it's very much a neighborhood, but there's a lot of like wild spaces, like open spaces. And we have a little bit of that on our own property. And so I just feel so grateful. And that's why when I told you about the foraging the berries and I said it feels like home, I don't know a better way to describe it except that it's something that I normally do in my day-to-day life. And so being able to do that again and forage for the berries, have food that we can just find when we go on walks, makes me feel a certain like level of comfort.
Yeah, I love that. That's so good. Yeah, you always are so good about just really figuring out like what is going to help this to feel like home for you, and what is going to help you to feel comfortable, and it fits your needs. It fills your needs. So I love that for you. Yeah. Oh, that's so good. So let's back up in the story a little bit. So it's in the last 5 months, you have moved to a whole different state. You've had a baby. You have started to figure out how to homeschool kids in a new state, in a new community. So back us up in the story and help us to understand, like, what even caused you to do this big transition, especially in the midst of being 5 months pregnant.
Because we're crazy is the answer. So my husband your brother had been self-employed before then, for a full year. He was building his business and it was great. He was doing such a good job. He was getting really good and interesting work, but it was a grind and it was taking a big toll on our family because when you're running your own business, like you are everything, and it's very time consuming and energy consuming. And so it was just a hard place for our family to be in. And we weren't quite where we wanted to be financially and with the amount of time that he was putting into it by the time the new year rolled around. It seemed like he was still going to be having to put in a lot of hours and we weren't going to see the returns that we needed to see for him to support a family of 5 and soon to be 6 in the time that we needed him to. So then our cousin offered him a job in the Texas Hill Country, which is an hour outside of Austin, which would have meant that we would not only relocate and leave our community, but we'd be switching that community of friends in New Mexico for our family community because we have 2 sisters, a cousin, an aunt and uncle, all in Austin. So I think it was just like a combination of the hard place that we were in, and then, our cousin offering this job and us looking at it like, what is going to be best for our family? What is this opportunity going to mean for us? And within a couple of days after prayer and conversation between my husband and I and multiple family members, including you, we just thought, like, let's go for it. It's a really good chance to be by family. We've never been by family long-term as we've raised our own children. And so we said yes within a couple of days and just got the ball rolling. And it has not slowed down. I mean, maybe it just started feeling like it slowed down now. But once we made the decision, it was like a lot of travel, packing up the whole house, and all the things that come with moving and finding a new place to live. So
that's so much. What I love about that and the decision that you guys made is just this focus on what is the quality of life that we want to have at this stage in life, and having, 4 kids between, newborn and 13 years old. Like, that's a really big decision for people to figure out. And I think some of the conversation that we'd had, months ago was around like even sacrificing career elements for Dustin, and then certainly sacrificing community, in that, and those trade-offs to determine like, okay, what does that quality of life look like for us? What does the lifestyle, look like that we want for us and our family? So I think, because you alluded to it when you talked about your love language of quality time, and you and I have talked about this so much, of the community piece being such a big deal to you. So talk about that sacrifice a little bit, and just what that has been like to, leave community and leave friends.
Yeah. So when it came down to it in our conversations about leaving, we didn't own a home. The kids weren't in school. Dustin no longer had a job in town that he had to be there for. He could work from anywhere. And so there was nothing anchoring us to Albuquerque anymore, except for our community.
Yeah.
And we loved our community. And so it was a big deal. And when we looked at it, it was like, we're really trading one great thing for another great thing.
Yeah.
So leaving the friends and the homeschool community and our church community, who had become family, to be near our blood family and our relatives here. So it was such a hard decision, Laurel. And it would have been easier if, we had no friends there, or some of my other friends had moved away, or there was just something that made Albuquerque terrible enough in that sense to just say, the obvious choice is to move to Texas to be with family. But it wasn't. So it's always the hardest part of moving. We've moved plenty of times, and it has only gotten harder as we've moved more. And I'm not really sure why, but we built really, really deep relationships with friends, and our little area that we lived in, our neighbors and the people that we lived around. And so, it's like breaking up. I mean, it's and in a way it's breaking up after a really long-term, deep relationship. So that was challenging. But then on the other hand, the idea of being near family, our sister both of our little sisters have new babies, and it's their first babies. So the idea of getting to be around those two little kids and like watch them grow up was, I guess in a sense that almost makes the decision easy, because we love our sisters so much and we love those babies so much.
Yeah.
And then I grew up with my cousin and my sister, who live in Austin now. I grew up with them as my best friends. We roamed around. We spent all of our childhood together up until the day I married Dustin. They were in my wedding, and then Dustin and I left, but like they were my best friends for most of my life. Yeah. And so being able to like move back and hang out with them again was just awesome. And even you're and Dustin's little sister, we get along so well with Lonnie and Rex. We just love them and their family. And Will and Brooke, our cousins, are so fun, and we get along so well with them. So there was a lot to be excited for, even though we were leaving the community.
That makes sense. That's so good. Yeah. One of the things that you and I had also talked about at one point was just kind of the transition for your three oldest kids in leaving their community and their friends. And obviously it's one thing for you and Dustin as adults, and you, as you said, you've been through that before, but definitely maybe a little bit more challenging for the kids. I think you said that Cypress, the 6-year-old, at one point said, "I hate you, Mommy. Why'd you make me leave my friends?" So So I talk about that part of this transition.
Pretty close. He didn't say he hated me.
Oh, good,
but
good.
He did. He definitely was real anti. And was very confused and threatened to run away back to Albuquerque.
Okay.
So, when I didn't expect it to hit them so hard. I knew it was going to, but I wasn't prepared for their emotions. And Yeah. So Dustin and I make this decision for the better of our family. We hope.
Yeah.
And then we get here and everyone's devastated
Mm.
about the change that we've made.
Yep.
And Dustin and I are like, hey, look, we can own a home now and we can be by family now. And daddy's office is only 20 minutes away now. So we get more time with him.
Mm.
And as little kids, that stuff, like they're like, okay, great,
Yeah.
but I still miss my friends.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, so Cypress, almost any chance that he gets, he's very much reminded of missing his best friends and then reminds me. Um, and both of my girls have been in tears because they miss their friends. And it is just a really hard thing to watch your kids in pain and discomfort. It's a hard thing to watch anyone that you love in pain and discomfort. Then when you are the one technically that has afflicted that pain and discomfort, it is not great. So my mom heart was like, what have I done? This is terrible. And I'm trying to manage my own feelings about leaving my own friends.
Yeah.
And I had to really figure out the balance of being strong for them and showing them how great this new thing was in our life and being enthusiastic and bringing them along to be excited and joyful with me, and also just being sad with them, like letting us all be sad about our friends. And so we've had multiple tearful FaceTimes with our friends from Albuquerque where our whole families are crying because we miss each other so much. But overall, the kids they've been understanding and supportive and so sweet, but emotions are real and you can't help that and you can't really rush it. Yeah. So that was a challenge.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and that I love like that you built in some components in that of making sure that you are FaceTiming with those friends and family, and then giving space and time. As you just said, you can't rush it. You have to just give that time. So good for you. Yeah. Oh gosh. Okay. So we talked just a little bit about, you also had a baby in the midst of all of this. And I can see you, our listeners can't, but you have a cute little baby Sage attached to you as we talk. So the timing of it, obviously you didn't really have control over the timing. You had to take advantage of the opportunity and the timing that it was. So how have you navigated this transition, as a pregnant mom and now as, with a newborn?
A lot like someone being just thrown into the deep end. I didn't know what to expect and I wasn't sure how it was all going to work. There wasn't flexibility in the timing. And so it just had to be done. And when something just has to be done at that time, you just have to go through it the best that you can and make the most of it. And so that's what I tried to do. I don't think I did it the most gracefully. Looking back now, I'm realizing that, transition is just a really normal part of all of our lives and it's not going to go away. And there's going to be more transition in the future. And so the best way that I can look back at how I did things during this transition is as a learning experience for the future, because my energy, I don't think I paced myself well with where I put my energy. I think that I expected to kind of maintain this level of normalcy for my family that I shouldn't have been trying to do. There were weeks when we were homeschooling when we shouldn't have been homeschooling. I mean, there's just so much other things going on that needed our attention. We should have been focused on those things without stressing ourselves out and trying to do it all. Yeah. I probably should have had my family eat a lot more frozen food and not worried so much about keeping up the cooking that I was doing or even the cleaning that we were doing around the house. I mean, there's yeah, there's things that I didn't do well with that in terms of balancing all the activities and everything that needed to be done.
Mm.
So I think that made it potentially a little bit more stressful than it needed to be.
Yeah. That's so
Yeah.
interesting. I think we do tend to put such high expectations on ourselves. And in the midst of transition, I don't think that we often in the moment realize like how much we're expecting of ourselves. So I really appreciate you saying that, like, take a look at those expectations and what are you asking of yourself, and, you know, what things can you let go of, and
Yeah.
what things from your quote unquote normal prior
Yes.
routine, you know, maybe need to either change and not ever be that way again, or at least, you know,
Yeah.
in a transition time need to be let go of. So helpful.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that you and I have talked about is like you finding you in this season and figuring out, you know, as you've gone through this change and this transition, like how to maintain your peace as Ashley, as a woman, you know, before taking care of your kids' needs and your husband's needs and, you know, being the caregiver, so to speak. So talk a little bit about like that piece for you of what that has looked like to try to, you know, find you and to be you in this season.
hmm Well, one thing that I'm really proud of through this transition was that we did, or I did, maintain my nuclear family relationships. And so I wanted to make sure that when we were going through a stressful time, we didn't take it out on each other, take out our tensions or our anxieties on each other. And instead, we acted like a team. And so we were all going to be in it together, and we were going to be loving and kind no matter what, even if it was a hard day or a hard week. And so I'm very, very grateful for that. However, I may have tried a little too hard. And so I was trying to, how do I say this? I was trying to keep things good, perhaps without the foundation. It may have been superficial, let's say. So I was trying to keep things happy and good for the family and for our relationship when it was actually breaking down and it was hard to manage. And so in my trying to keep my 6-year-old who didn't want to leave happy and my 13-year-old who's trying to see a bunch of friends happy, and then trying to keep up a relationship with my husband who was just working so much, I just wasn't giving any energy to myself at all.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize I was doing that until after the baby was born. And I just like cried multiple days in a row, like at the end of the day, over nothing in particular. I just would be crying. And I'm like, why am I feeling this way? Like, why am I crying right now? And it was because there was all this output, and my family wasn't asking me to be the glue and the happy for them. But I was like inserting myself into that position. And that is really tiring, and you can't be that for other people. And on top of just trying to, you know, keep things normal and keep things good, I was also trying to homeschool and make whatever home that we were in feel like a home when it was our empty house in Albuquerque, or it was the cabin by the lake that wasn't ours and was tiny, or it was this home that we're in now full of boxes. There was just so much that I was trying to do, and there wasn't any left over for me. And so after I cried, I went through this feeling and these thoughts of what needs to be different for me to not feel this way. And at first it was like, well, I need my house to be set up, or I need my kids to take care of themselves more, or I need my husband to be home more. And so there's all these like external solutions.
Mm-hmm.
But I have learned a couple things in my 35, almost 36 years. And one of those things is that I have it within me to solve my problems a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't complain about these things that are happening that are self-imposed if I'm not going to bring also a solution to the table.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot within my control. So my solution for this was to make time for myself.
Mm-hmm.
That was the problem. Like I wasn't giving any time to myself. Make time for myself. And of course, it's so much easier said than done because, as I told you, well, if I'm working on my art, then the laundry is piling up, or
Yeah.
the dishes are piling up, or the kids are doing who knows what. So it's hard to actually apply in real life because you have to ignore certain things
Yeah.
temporarily. But it just had gotten to the point where I couldn't ignore my own needs anymore.
Yeah.
So then I started drawing again. And yeah, I'm an artist. I love to draw with pen and ink. It's my happy place. It's a meditation for me. I really enjoy it. And I needed that for myself. I think that we're all creative, and didn't really have a creative outlet for the past handful of months. So getting back to that where it was just for me was huge. A huge shift in how I was feeling.
That's so good.
Yeah.
And it is, I mean, I think it's so interesting, like how much that speaks to your Enneagram 9 of like the peacemaker, and you're trying to bring peace to the rest of your family when really what you ultimately identified was that you needed that internal peace more than anything else, and figuring out the internal rather than the external and circumstantial components or other people's peace. So
okay, so that was like a super great way to say that, Laurel. This is what I love about you, is that I can ramble, and we have talked about this before, but I can ramble and use 1,011 words, and then you will wrap it up with a nice little bow in one sentence. So I'm very grateful for you saying all of that, because I have a hard time following it, and you said it really eloquently.
well, that's
Exactly.
the ezy part when you're the outsider looking in. You can summarize things a little bit more. So, no, but I mean, that is just so beautiful and so important. And I think, you know, as a mom of 4, a homeschooling mom, a wife, and just a busy person with so many different things like that, I think that is such a, critical component, is to figure out like, okay, what is that thing that brings you internal peace? And obviously there are different components of that for all of us. It looks different for each of us, but just you identifying that and having that hard conversation with yourself, and drawing others into the conversation to, help you in that, is such an important piece. And figuring out, okay, what does that look like for me? So I love that. Yeah. Good job. Well, anything else that we didn't talk about that you want to make sure that we have a chance to share with the women who are listening?
Yes, definitely. You and I were talking a little bit about it before, that whatever you're going through, no matter how hard it is, or how vulnerable it may feel, or how potentially private it is, if you're going through a hard time, bringing your community in to support you is essential, because going through it alone is just going to make it harder.
Yeah.
And nobody needs to do that to themselves.
Yeah.
People that love you want to be there for you and want to support you, especially when you're going through a hard time.
Yeah.
And we leaned a ton on family during this transition. I mean, this is not an exaggeration, we wouldn't have been able to do this if it had not been for family.
Yeah.
And our friends too, being very helpful, moving us when we were in Albuquerque, even though we were saying goodbye to them. Yeah, I would just say lean on your community. And
Yeah.
you are building like such a good, well, you have such a great community and you're building such a great community of women. And so I think that's really important. And your female friends can be your greatest gift during those really hard times.
Yeah. Yeah. So well said. I love that. And so many people have heard me say it over and over again. They're going to get sick of me, but we were not created to live this life alone. We need to surround ourselves with the people who do love us. And we all have that. We just sometimes forget. So, or have a hard time asking for help, which is so good. It's so important to do. So, well, thank you so much for your wisdom and your insights and for being vulnerable to share about your transition over these last handful of months. I appreciate it so much. And I'm so grateful that you joined us.
Thanks, Laurel. Thanks for having me and thanks for doing this.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure. I know it may sound like a cliche, but this conversation with Ashley really reminded me of how true it is that we cannot pour from an empty cup, that we really do need to identify for each and every one of us as individuals what it is that energizes us, what is life-giving for us, what brings us that internal, that inner peace, and really cling to that once you find it and not to let it go. I'm so grateful that Ashley opened up about that and talked about her exploration of that within her own life. I really also love that it's been a theme throughout these episodes of just giving ourselves grace. And Ashley reminded us that we have to release the expectations that we have of ourselves and not expect that we're going to maintain the prior routine that we had before, that each and every season that we're in, each and every transition that we're in needs to be handled individually. And we need to look at that season and what it needs rather than feeling like we just have to keep going as we always have, but really identify what that looks like in each and every time and season. I'm so grateful that she talked about community and asking for help. One of the things that I have heard over and over again in the last year in particular of my coaching is a weariness and a resistance to asking for help. We have become such an independent culture in society that we feel ashamed or weak for asking for help, and that needs to change. We need to be able to feel comfortable enough to invite people in, especially through difficult times and hardships, and ask them to allow us to lean on them. Such an important and critical piece, especially when we're going through transition and difficult times. I'm so grateful for this conversation with Ashley today. She is just such a delight. I know you're all jealous that she's not your sister-in-law, but no, I just love her seriously so much, and I'm so grateful for her. If you'd like to talk with Ashley about any of these topics that we discussed today, or being a homeschool mom, navigating parenthood without family living nearby, or being an artist, she would more than welcome you to reach out to her. Her contact information is in the show notes, as well as her website, so that you can see her artwork and maybe purchase a print or two to hang on your walls. So thank you so much for joining for this lovely and precious conversation with my sister-in-law, Ashley. I'd like to give a huge thanks and shout out to my friend Scott Higby with Studio C Creative Sound for partnering with me in the sound production for Courage Becomes Her. I'm so grateful for his expertise and so grateful for his friendship and partnering to bring this podcast to you. What an honor to help you to cultivate confidence, courage, and joy in your life and work. Thank you so much for inviting me to journey with you. I look forward to being back with you next week, where we'll hear another story from a woman whom I love and am inspired by and look forward to learning from.